Hello everyone, welcome to Ventura Valley. I'm Ignacio Ventura and I'm here with Michael Stopher, also known as Tudes. How are you, Michael?
Great, yourself?
I'm doing well too. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So just to start things off, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I grew up in the West Valley, Tolleson, Arizona. Very small town, community oriented. That's where I began to pursue arts at an early age. I got into aerosol and airbrush when I was very young in Tolleson.
I see. And how was it like growing up in Tolleson?
I mean, there was a very close-knit community. We had events at the church, parades, little city functions that were amazing. But being a small town, it also had its dark side, and like there was a lot of alcohol abuse. But in the end, there's a very positive story about perseverance that comes through with the city of Tolleson.
I see. And you yourself are an artist, is that right?
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself as an artist and what you do, what kind of work you do?
I currently do, like I would say fantasy themed, has a little bit of elements of Gothic, Victorian style. I love to use oils, acrylics, aerosol, and occasionally do some sculpting. My work's been described as like ethereal, very imaginative, and it kind of focuses currently around mental health issues and community.
I see. How did you get into art?
I was, just inspired by older artists in the neighborhood that were doing it around me, and it was all new to me, and it really just blew my mind, and I just couldn't help but to, pick up those instruments and start using them once I saw them.
Did you have a chance to collaborate with any of those other artists?
Yes, one of my mentors, Angel Diaz, we've collabed at an art show in downtown Phoenix, absolutely.
Oh, interesting. And what's the process like for you to make art? So you paint. What's that process like for you? How do you get ideas to do that? Tell me.
Ooh, I'm inspired by mainly by nature, like fantasy movies and maybe comic books. Other artists, of course, but mainly by nature. I love to like really zoom in into like tree bark and look at the very intricate patterns and how they weave and like how it has beautiful flow, and like that to incorporate that in the style of my art.
Very interesting. So when you make this art, do you make it for yourself? Do you make it for others? Tell me about that.
It's a combination of, but recently I've been having some experiences where I'll post things and people will reach out, and when it's like a deep subject, like as far as like healing, they'll reach out and we'll have these little conversations and they'll tell me like, I resonate so much, thank you. And they'll even like get emotional, and when I'm out selling this art, I'll talk to the people, and they also feel like they can resonate, and I really like that deep connection, so I'm gonna try to focus on that more.
I see. And from my understanding, you said you also make murals, is that right?
Yes, I've done several murals in the Valley, and I've been lucky to live in Coronado where we have the Oak Street Alley Mural Festival, and I've been part of that for about 5 years now. It's an amazing event.
Can you tell me more about that festival for those who don't know?
Yeah, so annually we usually like to throw it when it's cooled off, definitely not in summertime. We'll get about 8 to 10 featured artists that will be paid, and we'll invite them to paint. Everybody else, it's kind of like a first come, first serve. We'll buff the walls for them, and then we'll have food vendors, live performances, and people from the community. I'll come out to volunteer and help make it a really great event. It's family friendly, it's a very safe environment, and I love being a part of it.
Interesting. And how did you end up getting involved in that festival for yourself?
I guess my buddy Joey, aka Phil Freedom, he was the one who created the event, and I would go paint, and then I'm a neighbor, and it's just me here, so he was like, hey, you want to help out with this, help out with that? And I'm like, absolutely, I got time. So eventually he asked me to be part of the mural panel where we decide who's going to paint, and it's been a blast.
I see. Going back to the murals, where can people find those murals, and what exactly did you paint on those murals?
Oh, that is 13th Street in Oak to I believe 14th Street in Oak. It's an actual alley, but it's paved, and there is several walls that not only branch out east to west through the alley, but it also spills off into other neighbors' alleys if you just look around. What I've done is I've done some nature scenes, like with large birds, like with fantasy backgrounds, maybe like just things to make people like stare and like really get enveloped in this beautiful world, you know, and feel like they're somewhere else for a little bit, and they're worry free, and they feel like weightless.
I see. And how long does it take you to make these murals? Average. Does the design of the mural also like vary based on what you're painting to?
I'll do a little sketch on my iPad. Maybe it takes about 30 minutes to an hour, and then I'd say I'll paint a first session for about 4 hours, and the next day 4 to 6 hours, you know, so 8-10 hours on average.
Interesting. And who asks you to paint these murals? City officials, or businesses, organizations? Who exactly asks you?
That is Joey, my friend, reaching out to the residents and saying, may we paint your alley wall? And he's kind of like emphasizing how it can be a positive thing that also like prevents graffiti, because the artists tend to respect it because it's so beautiful, you know? And the residents, yeah, that whole alley's full of it, so we have really awesome neighbors.
I see. As an artist yourself, how do you feel about graffiti art?
I mean, people need to express themselves somehow. Right now, I'm just glad it's very widely accepted. There's cities who allow that kind of style, you know, in their buildings and in the murals on their buildings, and I think it's evolved a lot, and I'm really happy with the way things are going, and that these artists are finally getting recognized, and they're having a voice, and they're able to express themselves, for sure.
Do you think there's enough outlets for artists here in Arizona to be able to express themselves, or do you think more needs to be done?
More than ever. I think it's abundant. I mean, I'm in a situation where I'm booking events on the weekend constantly and having to turn some down, and I see people out there, they're walking around, they're engaging, they're smiling, the community is thriving, and I think it's abundant right now. Art and community events are abundant. I love it.
I see. So you make these murals in collaboration, sort of in association with the residents, but I'm also curious, do you also make any artwork in collaboration with any municipalities, any cities, any towns? Or not yet?
I've done some at my workplace, and I'm definitely submitting as much as I can lately. And yeah, that's definitely a possibility, and I think will happen in the future.
I see. And you said you work for the city of Tolleson, is that right?
Correct.
And what's your role with the city again?
I'm in field operations, grounds maintenance. I've been there 22 years.
Interesting. You also make music, is that correct?
Yeah, I made some instrumental albums, maybe like 9 of them. I'd say now I currently toil with music. I don't really put out albums, but yeah, it's just a fun hobby that I love to do.
And how did you get into doing those albums?
Early on, I would say 99, in the early 2000s, there was this explosion of like brand new music, trip hop, drum and bass, rave culture music that it was nothing like we've ever seen before. And you know, I'm into things that are different and new, and it just keeps my mind happy and refreshed. So I immediately jumped in and started buying samplers and keyboards, and then eventually got a computer with a program in it, and then, you know, it had a burner, and then, you know, I was a young kid, but I just started making albums, and it was very fun to share it, you know. It's a great experience. And then some artists would take those tracks and play them, and then perform, you know, lyrics on them at live events on massive sound systems, and that felt really great.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that you were inspired by other artists. With music, were you also inspired by certain musicians?
Yeah, that, like I said, that trip hop era of Portishead, DJ Shadow, Dr. Octagon, DJ Wally, and then lots of jungle drum bass producers as well that were breaking boundaries.
Did you focus on any other genres by any chance?
Ooh, You know what, it was just a blend of all these different genres, even things I grew up with, you know, like to this day, we're doing like a cumbia project, but I'll still incorporate that electronic vibe in it.
I see. When it comes to your own cultural background, do you take any influence or any inspiration from your own cultural background into your art or your music?
Absolutely. You know, there's some Dia de los Muertos pieces right now that we're looking at across from us, and you know, that's it really tells stories about my roots, where my nana was like constantly cooking and providing for people, and I just thought it was magical how she would crush these herbs in the molcajete, and it was this like ritual experience that was so beautiful, and then she would serve it to us, you know, and it was, a lot of it was so nurturing, so I wanted to portray that in that image. And I'm working with the Sagrado right now, and they're having markets on the south side, and you know, I'm taking art that's specifically catered to those residents so that they can enjoy it and we can communicate and, like, you know, just share our stories and our backgrounds and our history and celebrate it.
I see. What do your family and friends think of your art?
Wow, 100% supportive. They're great. They show up to events. They, you know, encourage me with words. They'll help me on social media with likes and comments. My mom will come to the events. My dad's very supportive. They're great.
Interesting. So you already mentioned the festival, but I'm just curious, what other events do you also go out to?
Ooh, I mean, you know, there's calls to art. There's people that just say looking for vendors. I'll do that as much as I can. Right now, I'm very excited because the city of Tolleson is doing an event where it's called Third Fridays, and they're having bands go out, and each time it'll have a theme. It was Mexican Heritage Month last time, and they're going to keep, like, you know, celebrating different cultures. So people with different styles of art will show up. I'm going to do that regularly. Like I said, the Sagrado is out there on the south side. They're doing monthly events. And now what's really excited is my buddy, Adrian Garcia. He's working with the Arizona Center, and although it closed down, now they're going to allow artists to go and do live art and paint, and they're going to have vendors. So I'm going to do that on the regular too. It's been great. Sales has been great. Everybody's been having a really good time.
Oh, okay. So the Arizona Center is going to open back up for artists?
Yes, it is, and they got shops in there. It's amazing. I'm really happy about it.
Oh, wow. I think I did recall seeing an artist in one of the buildings. Is that possibly the artist like starting to go in there and maybe do some things over there, or what do you know about that?
I know that Adrian Garcia and Styles, they have a shop already with like hip hop clothing and art, so that's already up and running. So it might have been them that you saw over there.
Oh, very interesting. Do you have any upcoming projects that are coming up?
I have some submissions. I have a big residential mural that I'm very excited about, and other than that, definitely just trying to submit more to these call to arts for the cities and being more involved with the community. I do have a mural that coming up for the city of Tolleson, working with the teen council. I've done one before at a community garden with them, and it was an amazing experience. So I want to keep doing, you know, projects like that.
I see. And what gives you the momentum to keep on doing art, keep on doing your projects? What drives you? What inspires you? What influences you? What's that momentum for you?
You know, it's a process of creating, sharing, and then hearing feedback is amazing. But right now, just really sharing stories with people who can relate to like having mental health issues, and then healing and having community and an open space to talk about it and be vulnerable it's really driving me to do some really, really big, beautiful projects right now.
Oh, wow. Are you allowed to tell us some of those other projects that you've been working on?
I mean, these are just individual canvases that I'm doing day to day, but I did have an idea to do an art show, and it was going to be something along the lines of using dark art to bring light to mental health. So for people to like paint situations that were uncomfortable, where they experienced trauma, but eventually there's a very big light at the end of the tunnel, and they heal from it, and then they share a powerful story in the end with their artwork. So that's an idea I have, and I really want to do that.
I see. When making your art, what kinds of materials do you use? What kinds of colors do you do you use in most of your art? Tell me a little bit about all of that.
Okay, I love to use oils, like I said. Sometimes I'll use sculpting materials. I use a very thick, heavy body acrylic paint from Gaffrey Art Material that's amazing. I found a foam clay that it dries on its own, it air dries, and that's very beautiful to work with. Other than that, just aerosol, and with my palette, I like to do like earthy palettes, kind of muted colors, but very colorful as opposed to in the past when it was more gray and black.
Interesting. And why do you choose those kinds of colors?
Just because I think palette is so important. I've seen, you can splash 4 or 5 colors that they're tasteful onto a canvas, and even that alone can look great. So when you do that in combination with beautiful shapes and compositions, that's when your art really stands out to me.
I see. And obviously we do have some artwork here in the back. Can you tell me a little bit about this one that's down here?
This one is, okay, so it's got this like character that's kind of like praying right here. And then the head is illuminated. It's kind of like there's a flame, meaning maybe like spiritual enlightenment, symbolizing spiritual enlightenment. And then this heart is upside down because it's like talking about a different kind of love. Because in life sometimes, you hear the parents tell the kid like certain things like, you have to love me because I'm your dad. You have to love me because I'm your mother, which I believe is wrong, because there has to be respect and love reciprocated, because they could be a horrible parent and they were taught that you have to love them no matter what. But no, I believe they should be a good parent, and then they'll get the love that they deserve. So that's what the heart means right there. And then I love to use Victorian accents and lots of nature. And like I said, these are like inspired by driftwood patterns, all that style in there.
Very interesting. And how long did it take you to make this one? Do you remember?
I would guess this one's anywhere from 10 to 14 hours. It's oil paint.
10 to 14 hours.
Yep.
Very interesting. And when it comes to applying meaning to your art, do you kind of have an idea of what meaning before you start to like paint, or maybe when you make the art, does the meaning sort of like come along with it?
I do think ahead before I start sketching what this is going to mean more often, but sometimes like I will take turpentine and oil paint and like splash it around, and you kind of like use the canvas as like a rune or like a crystal ball, and you start to see little shapes come through, or faces and trees, and then you like organically choose what to leave in, what to leave out, and you keep working with it, and then something just comes out of like the ether, It's an amazing experience.
I see. Very, very fascinating, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What have other artists thought of your current work right now?
Other artists? I mean, most are like, they tell me positive things, like I can see the evolution, I can see how this is changing, that's changing, how your palette's changing. They're very supportive, I mean, of course there's other artists that, they're on another like tip, they have their own way they like to paint, maybe more loose, this is more loose, but most of my paintings are more tight, so they have their own opinions, but what I hear personally is a lot of good feedback for sure.
I see. And speaking of feedback, have you also received any criticism towards your art at all?
No, and I think that's just because like I'm a very easygoing guy. Like I don't disrespect people, and it's hard for them to do that because of that. So I'm grateful,
Got it. I did want to ask, has anyone ever asked you for any art tips, for any suggestions? Have you ever taught anyone or instructed anyone when it comes to art?
Yeah, here and there I'll give some tips. I mean, I love to share. I don't gatekeep anything. And I was once invited there's a gallery, boutique down the street called The Hive. And they had, after the Oak Street Mural Alley Festival, they had some master classes in the morning. And I taught a scumbling technique class with acrylic paints on a wall. And it was, I got very good feedback. They really liked it.
I see. And are there any of your own personal techniques that you apply to your own art?
Personal. I mean, I've been told by some really amazing artist friends that like you definitely have your own style, and to me, style is very important. There's people that can just paint a portrait, but if they're not using like style in it, I don't know. For me, it gets kind of old. So I'm big on, I used to be big into lettering, and I just I mean, I think that's my that's why my work is unique. You know, it just really focuses on style for sure.
I see. For those who are just getting into art and need some advice to kind of keep going, what advice or suggestions or tips do you have for them?
Right now, these young artists are so blessed. They have everything at their fingertips. I would say learn the foundation. Don't skip. Learn about lighting, learn about composition, learn about color palette, hue, chroma, you know, because I was kind of lazy back in the day because we had to go to take a bus to get to Phoenix Library to learn these things. Now they can learn it quick, so I would say learn that immediately. Yeah, it can be boring. I know you just want to start painting, but you have all that information, and if you use that, it's very valuable, and you'll be off to a really good start.
Interesting. So would you say that you took a lot of influence from other people's tips and suggestions? Or how much did you, I guess, teach yourself as well? Yeah, I guess, tell me a little bit more about that. How was your art inspired by other people's tips, and maybe how much of it comes from yourself, from teaching yourself?
I mean, as far as using materials such as aerosol back in the day and airbrush, I did have friends telling me techniques. It was very helpful, but as far as like style and composition and all that, I did have to learn on my own as I went, and the older I get, the more I want to learn. You know, I'll never stop learning, and I love to expand and grow.
And do you still keep on learning to this day?
Absolutely, I love it, yeah.
Nice. And as for some of the art that you do make right now, do you do commissions? Can people order some of your art? And if so, can they request anything, or do you already have something painted and they can order it? Tell us more details about that.
I have several oil paintings, and you know, I like to have a big array of different, like a big price range for people, you know, because things are tough right now with inflation big time. So I have little prints, little block pieces of art with done in ink, large originals, and I'm open to commissions. I can do portraits, I could do pets, I could do landscapes, anything they want. They can come, and yeah, I'm open to commissions for sure.
Interesting. And what is the price range for these paintings and these prints?
Oh, that varies so much, because like I said, it's, you know, you got working class people, and then you got people who can afford $800 to $1,000 paintings. So the range is from 20 to 1,200, you know.
And this one down here, the one we were talking about earlier, this one's 500, is that correct?
Yep, correct.
Oh, interesting. I see. I think that almost wraps up our interview, but before we do conclude, I do want to ask you, is there anything else you would like to share about yourself or about your own artwork that you think would be important for our audience to know?
Well, I mean, anybody that's doing anything they're passionate about, I would say share it to the fullest. You know, you never know which child's eyes your art or your craft is going to hit, and what it can do as far as possibly saving them from a life of torment, addiction, you know, just horrors you never know. So I'd say, you know, just go out there, and if you're scared, walk through it. You know, courage is walking through fear, and get it out there to the fullest and be yourself, be authentic, you know. That's what I would say.
I see. And if people wanted to check out your art more, do you have a website? Do you have any social media? Is there a way people can reach out to you?
Yes, www.tudesart.com is up and running, but I rarely post there. I would suggest Instagram, 2DES, and I have TikTok, but I don't like it, so I wouldn't go there.
I see. So I guess would you say reach out to you via Instagram?
Instagram, 2DES, correct.
All right, 2DES, got it. I think that concludes our interview for today. Thank you so much for joining Ventura Valley 2Des.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out.
I appreciate it.